Leon Vance has been the director of NCIS since Season 5, but Season 22 might have just presented him with his most difficult task to date. Numerous intriguing topics that were hinted at in the NCIS Season 21 finale have already been revealed in Season 22. Although Vance is typically not a major character in the most tense NCIS stories, the most recent update for Season 22 indicates that he will play a significant role in the season's most thrilling plot. Over the years, the cast of NCIS has seen numerous changes, and the inclusion of Seamus Diver's Gabriel La Roche is merely the most recent. However, La Roche is a serious threat to NCIS rather than a welcome addition to the group. La Roche, the most recent addition to NCIS, makes Vance's role as director even more difficult. Gabriel La Roche, who defeated Magee for the position, became the new deputy director of NCIS in Season 22. Prior to being promoted, La Roche was a Department of Justice inspector, and he played a significant role in exposing that the DOJ was looking into NCIS. But shortly before he was named deputy director, Magee and Parker learned that NCIS had a leak and that La Roche was the only one with the resources and access to disseminate the information. Early on in Season 22, La Roche, the NCIS internal mole, emerged as the show's antagonist. Although he hasn't interacted with the squad much thus far, he reports directly to NCIS Director Leon Vance. This makes things more difficult for Vance, who might be reluctant to give La Roche important information after learning that he is the mole. Having a deputy director should help Vance with his complicated job, but not if his colleague is betraying him. In order to keep Vance safe, the team has occasionally withheld information from him during NCIS. Parker discovered that La Roche was the leaker, but the team chose not to inform Vance just yet since they lacked the supporting documentation. A major dispute would have resulted from revealing it right away, which would have been exacerbated by the news that La Roche was now their superior. Additionally, they are shielding Vance from the burdensome decision of selecting the team over the NCIS bureaucracy by keeping La Roche a secret. Even after learning about La Roche, Vance will be unable to reveal him right away due to the norms and diplomacy in place, and he will have to keep working with him in order to maintain his reputation. La Roche would become suspicious, thus avoiding him would not be an option. Vance will therefore have to strike a balance between defending his group and being understanding of the system that initially elevated La Roche. This makes the most recent issue in NCIS Season 22 a very sensitive one. Prologue. The moon hung low over Washington, D.C., casting a silvery glow over the Naval Criminal Investigative Service headquarters. Inside, Director Leon Vance sat alone in his office, staring at a Class 5 folder marked Eyes Only. The world outside might have been at peace, but within these walls, turmoil brewed. This was not just another case, it was a time bomb waiting to explode. Over his years in service, Vance had weathered many storms, terrorist threats, internal betrayals, and even personal losses. But this was different. This was personal, political, and professional, all wrapped into one. It required precision, discretion, and a team he could trust completely. The stakes were higher than ever before. Chapter 1: A Mysterious Message. The week began like any other for the NCIS team. Agent Nick Torres was sparring with Jessica Knight in the gym, each trying to outdo the other. Timothy Magee worked quietly in the bullpen, a faint smile crossing his face as he read an email from Delilah. Casey Hines buzzed with excitement over a new forensic technique she was eager to try, while Dr. Jimmy Palmer prepared to deliver a lecture on rare toxins at a local university. Then came the call. Conference room now. Vance's voice over the intercom was terse, cutting through the light-hearted banter of the team. They exchanged puzzled looks but wasted no time in gathering. As the team settled into their seats, Vance entered with a grim expression. He held up the folder he had been studying the night before. We've received a direct threat against an international summit taking place here in D.C., he began. The summit will bring together naval and military leaders from across the globe. If this threat materializes, it could ignite a global conflict. Knight leaned forward. Do we have any idea who's behind the threat? Vance hesitated before answering. We believe it's tied to an underground network of rogue operatives, highly trained, well-funded, and deeply entrenched in multiple governments. The room fell silent. Your mission, Vance continued, is to uncover the source of this threat, neutralize it, and ensure the safety of the summit. This will require secrecy and collaboration with international agencies, some of which may not be fully cooperative. Gibbs' old rule number 39 echoed in MacG's mind. There's no such thing as a coincidence. Chapter 2. Pieces of the Puzzle. The investigation kicked off with an encrypted message intercepted by the Department of Defense. The message contained cryptic coordinates and a single phrase: the Leviathan will rise. Leviathan, Casey repeated, typing the term into her database. Sounds ominous. McGee analyzed the coordinates. They lead to a decommissioned naval base in Virginia. Looks abandoned on paper, but we all know appearances can be deceiving. Time for a field trip, Torres said, already gearing up. The team arrived at the site to find it eerily quiet. Rusted gates creaked in the wind, and overgrown weeds obscured much of the landscape. But beneath the surface, a sophisticated operation was underway. Hidden tunnels led to a command center filled with surveillance equipment and dossiers on summit attendees. Knight discovered a list of codenames, each paired with a country. These are key figures at the summit, she said. Whoever's behind this is targeting them specifically. Torres found blueprints detailing security protocols for the summit. This isn't just a threat, it's a full-blown operation. Before they could gather more evidence, the team was ambushed. A firefight ensued, forcing them to retreat. They barely escaped with their lives, and only fragments of the intel they needed. Chapter 3. Allies and Enemies. Back at HQ, Vance called in reinforcements. Agent Ziva David, who had been working with Mossad on international counterterrorism, and Clayton Reeves' successor, MI6 agent Charlotte Brooks. Ziva's return was met with mixed emotions. While her tactical expertise was invaluable, her history with the team, especially McGee and Torres, brought unresolved tensions to the surface. Good to see you, Ziva, McGee said, though his tone carried a hint of caution. Likewise, Ziva replied, her eyes scanning the room, as if assessing how much had changed since her last visit. Meanwhile, Brooks immediately clashed with Torres over strategy. We can't storm in guns blazing, Brooks argued. This requires finesse. And what happens when finesse gets us killed? Torres shot back. Vance intervened. You two will figure it out. We don't have time for egos. As the team pieced together the clues, they discovered a shocking twist. One of the summit attendees, a decorated admiral, might be a mole working with the rogue network. This revelation threatened to unravel international alliances and jeopardize the summit. Chapter 4. A Test of Loyalty. With the summit days away, Vance faced mounting pressure from both the Secretary of Defense and foreign dignitaries. His ability to navigate the delicate politics of the situation would determine the mission's success. At the same time, the team uncovered evidence linking the rogue network to a private military contractor. McGee and Casey worked tirelessly to trace financial transactions, while Knight and Torres conducted undercover operations to gather intelligence. But their efforts hit a roadblock when the mole within the summit uncovered their plans. Vance received a chilling message: stay out of this, or we'll bring the war to you. Despite the threat, Vance refused to back down. He called a private meeting with Gibbs, who had been serving as a quiet advisor since his retirement. Leon, you've got a tough choice to make, Gibbs said. Do you protect your people or play the long game? I'm trying to do both, Vance replied. Sometimes you can't, Gibbs said simply. Chapter 5. The Summit. The day of the summit arrived, and the tension was palpable. The team worked undercover, blending in with the security personnel and diplomatic staff. Knight kept a close eye on the suspected mole, while Ziva coordinated with international operatives to monitor external threats. Brooks and Torres, despite their earlier clashes, teamed up to infiltrate the private military contractor's headquarters. As the summit progressed, it became clear that the rogue network had planned a multi-pronged attack. Explosive devices were planted at key locations, and cyber attacks threatened to shut down communication systems. In a heart-pounding sequence, Magee and Casey worked to disable the cyber attacks, while Palmer and Ziva defused the explosives. Knight confronted the mole, leading to a high-stakes standoff that ended with the mole's arrest. Meanwhile, Torres and Brooks uncovered the mastermind behind the operation, a former CIA operative turned mercenary. Their confrontation culminated in a brutal fight, with Torres narrowly escaping death thanks to Brooks' quick thinking. Chapter 6: Aftermath. The team's efforts saved the summit, but the victory came at a cost. Injuries and close calls left everyone shaken, and the revelation of the mole's identity sent shockwaves through the military and political communities. Vance faced a media storm and internal investigations, but his unwavering leadership earned him respect from his team and international allies. As the dust settled, the team gathered for a quiet moment of reflection. Do you ever wonder if it's